This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. For a free 10-day unlimited trial, visit lynda.com/MacVoices. And by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome back to MacVoices. This is a Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, after not very long an absence, actually, Mr. Kevin LaRue of Macphun is back to tell us about something new and something I think it's very exciting. In fact, it's probably the only thing I can think of that's more exciting than the last thing he was here to talk about. Kevin, it's good to have you back.
Hey, thanks, Chuck. It's very kind of you.
Well, what I think is so exciting about this, you've gave a bit of a tutorial, bit of a demonstration, both on photo retouching and modification last time. This time, though, we're going in a different direction to talk about HDR, or high dynamic range photography, and something new that you are going to give us to play with.
Yeah, last time we took a 90-minute, I think, tour de force through all 6 of our other editing applications, and I kind of held back on this. We've been actually working for about a year with Trey Ratcliff, who's one of the more well-known and beloved HDR photographers in the world. He told me the other day that his images had been viewed over 115 billion times. Wow. Right? So that's just, the magnitude of that, is just astounding. But we were delighted to collaborate with him on this product. He had a lot to contribute. Obviously, things that he, not only his past experience and what worked for him, but also his recipe, which was so important for us to understand the workflow that a professional HDR photographer goes through. And then, of course, to be able to sort of brainstorm and freewheel on to what the thing should have to serve HDR photographers in the future. So we think we packaged it all up. And before I get started, one of the most important things was that we created what we call a start-to-finish workflow. Trey's favorite recipe had dozens of steps, involved tripping through multiple different applications to get the result he wanted. And really one of the design goals of the product was to package this all up into one tidy bundle, I guess you'd say, and let them really go start to finish, soup to nuts.
A couple things I want to get to before we start looking at the program. First of all, let's talk for a second about what HDR, or high dynamic range, is. It sounds really like, ooh, for
Star
people,
Trek.
Yes, people that don't know, and it's a bit more approachable, and I'm assuming this product makes it even more approachable.
Well, yeah, it is. So the concept is really simple. Our eyes can see what I would call difficult lighting situations, where think about being in a dark cabin and the sunlight streaming through the window. So you, as a photographer, you can understand that would be a very hard thing for a camera to capture in one shot. The sensor wouldn't know whether to expose for the darks and shadows in the room, or expose for the light coming through the window. So with that in mind, what HDR lets the photographers do is take an image that is overexposed, in other words, bringing out the dark shadows, is generally in the middle, and then one that's underexposed. So you get something that compensates for the light shining through the window properly. So the magic of the software comes in the ability to merge all those exposures together. We call them exposure brackets in the industry. So we merge all these exposures together, aligning them, and then compressing them. And so that it's that tonal compression and that sort of secret sauce, the algorithm, the proprietary algorithm behind that really, I think, makes Aurora HDR special. We've put it up against everything out there in the market, and we know that a lot of photographers love the natural, realistic look. These are interior architecture guys, fine art landscape guys. They don't want the far out science fiction. They want straight up solve the difficult lighting situation for me kind of a solution. And then, of course, you got the artisans and the creatives who want to explore different boundaries. And I think we've put all this thing into Aurora, all those different, requirements into Aurora. And I think we've come up with something that people are going to like. And as you point out, if I could just interject there, as you point out, it's drop dead simple to use. Even I can use it.
I don't want to hear it after your last demo. Even you can use it. Yeah, right. You just said something, though, that I think a lot of us associate with HDR, and that is that science fiction look. And that's when you push it either intentionally or unintentionally a little too far, and you get that very surreal thing. And a lot of those things appeal to us, but they're definitely not realistic. And so trying to dial it back and have it so that it just enhances the photo rather than really modifies it, I think is a key point here. Yeah. And I'm assuming that that's what you're going to be able to accomplish with this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the main goals. And in fact, you'll see once I boot up and run a bracket series through the software, you'll see that the initial tone mapping, initial merging, we've angled to have that start off as natural as possible. And then from there, you season to taste, as Trey said.
Right. One of the specifics, I know the last time we were here, we talked about this. Are these plugins? Are these standalone apps? What environment are you working in?
Yeah, so like all of our software, we come out with two flavors. One is aimed at consumers that are comfortable purchasing on the Mac App Store. And so there you go to your app store and you'd buy the software and you'd run it as a standalone. Now on the Pro side, which Trey is going to be selling and is selling on his stuckincustoms.com website, and we're selling at macphun.com. Well, actually, let's take that back. Aurora HDR.com is a special microsite, which I'll show you here in a second, that we've developed just for this software. So over there in those two locations, we're selling the professional versions. The Pro versions work in Lightroom, they work in Photoshop and Aperture, and they also run as a standalone. So really, wherever you're doing your HDR work, because a lot of people are using digital asset management tools like Lightroom, but then wanting to go into plugins or external editors, as they call it in Lightroom, go into those pieces of software for their unique capabilities.
And so, just to be very clear, two flavors, but same product under the hood, no differences in anything except the environment you're running them in.
Well, there are a couple of nuances. I do want to point that out. For example, the Pro version supports the RAW file format, okay, which is important. It supports more layers. You'll see in a few moments how we can use layers to help build up our HDR image. The Pro version supports many more bracketed exposures. Some pros, most consumers will take 3 shots, maybe 5 shots at the max. But some pros are using 7, 9, or more exposures to merge into that one file that they then begin working with.
Good. Just want to be sure that we steer people to the right version so that they get what they want.
Yeah, and all that stuff is on the website. I'll share with you here in a minute when we go to a screen share.
Great. So I guess at this point, anything else we should know before we get into it?
Well, I don't know when the video is going to come out. I suspect maybe this week, but we're launching on the 19th, which is a few days before we're recording this video. And it'll be available, worldwide on the Apple Mac Store, as I said, on Trey Ratcliff, stuckincustoms.com, and at aurorahdr.com.
Perfect. So let's see what you can do with it.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Well, so as you can see on the screen here, Chuck, I've got our aurorahdr.com site. This is a website that we specially built just to talk about the software. We're in a pre-order phase right now for the next couple of days until we launch. but we've got our tagline. We really do think this is the world's most advanced HDR software. We put everything we can think of, everything Trey knows about HDR into this thing. So on the website, you do have a video which is about a 4 or 5 minute video, which is kind of cool to listen to. Again, the special offer, we've got ways that people can play and understand what HDR is all about. You can see the multiple images here, and then some media points, and then again a little bit more explanation about how HDR works and the kind of amazing results you can get from it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and shut down Chrome here. We'll drop right into Aurora HDR. I'm dying to show this stuff to you. Now, this is your familiar Mac desktop, of course, and I'm going to go down to my dock here and just fire up Aurora HDR Pro. Again, this is the Pro version. I am running it as a standalone, but we could certainly be running it from Lightroom or Photoshop. One of the cool things about the product is we're going to actually give you some sample images to load right away. So in case you're new to HDR, you don't have to go out and learn how to shoot bracketed exposures on your camera. But in fact, you'll choose the sample images, and you can see this is the underexposed, middle exposure, and slightly overexposed shots that I'm going to merge into a single image. We've got some controls down here at the bottom. We've got an alignment control. So let's say you're doing handhelds. You don't have a tripod. This might be where you would click the alignment. Now, ghost reduction is where you might have moving objects within the frames. And what will happen is when the software merges, it will sometimes create these reflections of the moving objects. We call those ghosts. I don't think there are any in this particular bracket. Chromatic aberration is it's kind of a technical term for what I would say, red or purplish edges that happen sometimes in high contrast images. So I've clicked Create HDR. And as you can see, because I selected the checkbox Align Images, it's going through an alignment process right now. You can see the interface is fairly straightforward and with big text for guys like me, it follows kind of it follows what I would say is the MacPhun convention. So straight off the bat, I'm loving this file, right? It's a great looking shot. Feels natural, feels like there's a little bit of a spark to it, but otherwise I'm pretty pleased with this result straight out of the gate. Now as we kind of move across the top of the image, you've got open and share / export. You've got some zooming controls here. You've got the all important comparison back to the original, so as you get farther and farther along in your edits. Undo, redo, and we've got some other tools like cropping and brushing and masking even. Here's our histogram button. If I click that, we can show and hide the histogram. We call this the information bar, the info bar. Right here, we've got our EV stands for exposure values. So that underexposed shot was taken at -2 stops. This is the neutral one, kind of in the middle, and then we've got our overexposed one, the lightest shot in that bracket series at +2. The image was made with 3 images, shot at ISO 200 and at f4, and so you can see the images. We're working in 32-bit depths. That means for every pixel on the screen, there's 31 right below it that make up those colors. So this is incredibly high quality that we're working in right now. So, if any of your listeners and viewers are familiar with our products, we often have a very comprehensive set of presets. So I can come in here and with one click, I can apply, very, very extensive changes. Let's go over here to HDR Look 2, and you can see with one click, it's able to, here's a kind of a dreamier look to the image that I've supplied. I hope that's coming across in your screen, Chuck, because it's really, really coming through like a champ here on my Retina Mac. But let's say if we go to architecture, there'll be some there'll be some additional choices here. As I click on each one of the choices, it's making that change. Now this is kind of a strong HDR look, so this is very similar to the kind of look that you were describing earlier, that is very crisp, shows a lot of artifacting, and it kind of borders on the on the sci-fi, as you say. Since you really like this one, I'm going to go ahead and choose it as a favorite. And we've also got a bunch of presets here by none other than Trey. So he's got a whole set of presets that he's liked. So here's one called
Party in my HDR pants.
When in Venice, right? Is a nice one too. Black truffle salt. I mean, this is his unique way of looking at the world. But man, I sure like that one. I'm going to favorite that one too. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here, I'm gonna go ahead and click on the presets here again to drop that presets palette out. And one thing you notice right off the bat is his black truffle salt preset really had a lot of changes, right? He used almost every tool in the tool palette in the sidebar there, except for the 3 that are white. So this is a really cool way to learn HDR, because we'll show you just what it took to create that look that you're seeing in the big center window. So starting from top to bottom, spectrum, spotlighting, finishing touches. I generally leave these alone because the product does a pretty good job of it. But spectrum is allowing you to get lighter or darker. These are very subtle changes. Got some final touches here, and here's our before that we started with. And again, with the preset and some of the changes that I'm making now, we've got a much more spectacular look. Tone is kind of cool. This is where you're fiddling with the highlights, midtones, and shadows. So if I want to bring that up a little bit, brighten them up a little bit, I can do that. This increases or recovers from shadows. So you'll see the shadows kind of start to lighten there. Structure allows you to, structure relates to contrast on surfaces, is I think the easiest way to put it. So when we talk about what makes an HDR image, kind of pop or it's kind of crunchy, oftentimes, people are increasing the level of detail and those detail and contrast. And so that's what we're kind of getting at here with the structure palette. So if I go clarity all the way over to there, as my creaking Mac catches up, you'll see a lot more detail coming into the image here.
Kevin, I want to stop you right there for a second to let it catch up. But we did this before. What hardware are you running this on so people have some idea of what it takes and what can be accomplished?
Oh, sure. I guess the easiest way for me to do it is to show about this Mac. But I'm running a pretty vanilla 13-inch Retina screen. I do have a lot of memory in here, but I'll tell you that at the same time, out of a 500 gigabyte SSD drive, I've probably only got about 20 gigs left. So I'm running on the ragged edge there. But otherwise, you can see that that the software is is pretty fast as these things go in terms of merging. Again, I'm running a system that's almost that's almost 2.5-3 years old, but I am running on El Capitan. The system requirements are 4 gigabytes of RAM, and you can run all the way back, I think, to before Mavericks, the one operating system before Mavericks. So it's pretty generous from that standpoint.
Today's Mac Voices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. Get a full free 10-day trial at lynda.com/MacVoices. I've been telling you now for some time about the breadth of topics that lynda.com covers. With almost 4,000 titles in a wide variety of disciplines, both tech and non-tech. This time, though, I want to make sure you understand the depth of lynda.com's offerings. Let's say that you're interested in photography. lynda.com currently has 569 courses under the photography category, with 26,199 video tutorials, so you can see exactly what you're trying to learn. Topics like street photography, Lightroom, Photo Magico, Photoshop Elements, The Practicing Photographer, and many, many more. So no matter what kind of deep dive you want to take in photography, lynda.com has you covered. Or maybe you're interested in business. lynda.com has 1,351 courses with 53,467 video tutorials. Now that's depth. In that category, you can see courses on customer service, decision making, Excel, Office 365, communications, LinkedIn, project management. The list goes on and on. And with over 1,300 courses, I really mean it goes on. And those are only two of the broad categories at lynda.com. To appreciate it, you really need to do two things. First, visit lynda.com/MacVoices and do some browsing. Type something you're interested in the search box and watch the list of courses and videos appear. Then do it again with a different subject. And again. You're going to realize just how valuable lynda.com can be to you. Then, while you're still using the link lynda.com/MacVoices, sign up for a free unlimited 10-day trial. You can go back and watch any of the courses you just found, or pick something else, because your trial gives you access to the entire lynda.com library. Every course, no limitations for 10 days. Watch as much as you wish about whatever you wish, then sign up and keep on learning. That's lynda.com/MacVoices for your free 10-day trial to get access to an unparalleled library of learning video materials, and to let lynda.com know that you appreciate their support of MacVoices. Thanks to Lynda for being a sponsor of this week's MacVoices.
Okay, so structure is where you're adding a little bit more of that HDR goodness to your photo. Again, we started with a preset. So I'm just modifying or suiting that one-click preset to taste. If I want to show the image without structure, I can basically turn that off. And again, so there it is without, and here it is coming back with. So let me just turn that off again. You'll see it takes a second. See how smooth the image is, and it's a little bit muted up in the sky.
Yes.
And kind of pull that back, and you get a nice sharp image here. The process of merging images together can sometimes create noise, and so these are noise artifacts. So you see up here in the sky, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn. So just kind of waiting for the system to catch up there, but you can see that that when I turn the noise off, which I'm doing right now, you'll see a lot of these artifacts up in the sky here. And so when I turn it on, you can see what the preset has done. Again, I'm kind of clicking and a little bit ahead, but you can see that with the noise and smoothing of the HDR denoise tool, I'm able to kind of soften that up a little bit and smooth it out. Again, kind of the before and the after. If I zoom to fit, you can see the entire image once again. So pretty cool so far, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I hope you're realizing that that this is really straightforward. There's no rocket science going on here. I mean, there is behind the scenes, trust me. But to the person using it, it's a simple matter of looking at what you want to do with the image. Do you want to add more details? Do you want to have the thing glow or not? So you can see I'm dialing down the image radiance, which kind of gives it a little bit of a fantasy glow, or I can kind of bring that up again. If I want to accentuate colors, color contrast, saturate, vibrance, it's all here for you. Details, again, if you're angling more towards the detail side, you can go do that. I do want to call your attention to top and bottom lighting, because I really like this part of it. So to photographers, top and bottom lighting is pretty much dead on graduated neutral density. And this is where you can kind of separate your photos vertically in terms of top and bottom. Let's say, in this case, I think the sky's a little bit too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial down the tonality at the top, and I might brighten it up even a little bit in the foreground. I'm just going to do that a little more so you can kind of see it brightening up. And then the blend here between the two, I've got adjustments here using the slider. I can manipulate that transition between the two levels. I'm actually going to dial down the top a little bit more, and then of course I can orient this thing. So I can I can change where that top and bottom demarcation is. And again, if you're dealing with say you're taking landscape images and you've got hills or mountains and you want to kind of match top and bottom lighting to the angle of a slope, you can do that with our rotation slider here. So top and bottom lighting is really cool. And then of course the vignette. We like to finish off our images sometimes with a little bit of a vignette. And all I'm going to do is take a place center, and maybe I'll call everybody's attention to this part of the screen. So you see it kind of got a little bit darker around the edges here. So let's take a look at the before again. A lot of times when HDR images when exposures are merged together, they come out a little bit flat, and we've got tools like Aurora HDR to make them pop a little more. Any questions at this point? I've kind of given you a good rundown of the tool palette, and I've got some other things to show you as well.
No, a couple things about the images you started with, and I know these were sample images, but a lot of us have some point and shoots and some obviously better cameras that already come with bracketing built in, so that they shoot it automatically. Any tips for those folks who are going to bring iPhone images in, because that's the classic? That's the camera you have with you.
Right.
Are we going to be limited to just a one photo kind of HDR? Or are we going to be able to shoot bracketing? Or are there any apps that you're aware of or recommend that would work particularly well with this?
Well, that's a great question. You're talking about the mobile photography and, like you say, the camera that's with you. I don't know about you, but I've got one sitting right next to me on the desk. But, I think the most important thing with respect to bringing iPhone photos in or smartphone photos is just making sure that you're as steady as you can possibly be when you take that photo. HDR works a whole lot better when things are nicely aligned. And you can have some objects moving through there, maybe a flag waving or leaves in a tree blowing a little bit. But the better the overall composition and alignment is, I think the better off you're going to be. And again, the process of transferring images into Aurora, you've got the ability to bring in JPEGs, TIFFs, RAW files, etc. So it's a pretty standard fare there. Whether you're syncing with iCloud down to photos, or using some other synchronization utility to get them on your Mac.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And with respect to shooting with different handheld cameras, point and shoots, DSLRs, same deal. Some of the more sophisticated point and shoots do let you shoot with different brackets. I just got my hands on a Canon G16, which is kind of cool, and you just rotate the exposure dial up at the top. My Nikon D600, I set it in bracket mode, usually on a tripod when I'm going out. So a lot of possibilities to get your images into Aurora, for sure. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop into our folder here, and I'm going to let me just take a quick look at this image. Okay, this one kind of be kind of cool. Okay, so this is a 5-shot. Okay, image. You see it's all taken basically at the same time. So these were bracketed, and the camera itself set the different values between the exposures. So again, first thing you're going to see is HDR image will be made from this shot. We're going to like it. It looks like this thing was on a tripod. Doesn't look like much is moving. So I'm just going to go ahead and create the file straight up. And again, I could go into a preset. In this case, I think I'm just going to walk through some of the basic controls again and show you how fast we can make a great looking picture. Again, alignment does take a minute. We're aligning 5 different exposures, so the software is looking at objects in the screen, the pixel dimensions, and that sort of thing before you get your final tone mapped image.
I love the fact that the software does it for you, as opposed to you trying to nudge a pixel here, a pixel there, and that never seems to work out.
Oh yeah, but take a look at this result, Chuck. I mean, right off the bat, I don't know, it may look different to your eyes, but that looks like a fantastic, natural-looking photo.
Yeah, no, that's gorgeous.
I could go right here and immediately export it. But that would be a real short demo. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm actually going to create a new layer here. So I'm going to go ahead and by layer I mean, yeah, well, I'll step back a second. We're the only HDR product out there that lets you do layers within the software itself. A lot of them are running as plugins and relying on Photoshop layers. But you might remember that one of the design goals was to allow a pro like Trey or any photographer to do a start to finish workflow. So what I'm going to do here is just create a layer over my original image, and I'm going to call it top bottom. Okay, and so what I'm doing here is, as you might imagine, I'm going to go ahead and open up my top and bottom lighting, and again, kind of drop that down. Maybe increase I'll go real high here, but I won't. I'll drop back, and then just kind of look at that blend. So again, here's the before, and here's the after. You can see how in the after image, the foreground is kind of popping out at you a little bit more. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and press the plus key again, and I'm going to call this foreground details. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you our brushes and masking tools. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush, and the idea of masking and brushing effects in is really pretty cool. I can use my keyboard to increase or decrease the size of my brush, or I can go to this handy little palette and kind of go back and forth. I can also, of course, determine the softness of the brush. You can see as I slide it here, the softness is going down. So you see that inner transition is getting closer to the edge, that orange circle. That means I'm going to have a real hard edge there, and I really don't want that. I prefer the softer side of things. So go ahead, I'm just going to come down here, and I'm going to brush down, and I'm doing what's called masking. I'm not being super precise, but if I show you the mask, clicking on this eyeball right here, you'll see that's where I just brushed in my effects. So I might even come down here and try to pick up a couple of these little rocks here, because the effect I'm about to do is I want to sharpen those things. As I said, calling this foreground details. So now here is where I'm going to bring in clarity and details. Now again, you can't see anything yet until I start to bring this stuff out. Okay, and you're going to see some details pop in there. Do a little bit more detail. And again, let's turn this layer off, and you can see that the rocks are getting. Let me just pop in here just a little bit more. I'm using my space bar to move around, and so let's turn on the details. Okay, so you can see that, and turn them off. And again, I'm using this orange button. There's off, and there's on. Off, soft, and on. So it really, Aurora really gives you the ability to come in and sort of selectively edit your HDRs to however you like. It's really a pretty powerful tool that way. So let's go ahead and at this stage, the image again is looking pretty nice to me. I'm going to show a split side by side, and we'll even go ahead and zoom in just a little bit here, so you can kind of see the differences between the two. And I'm really liking the way this pops, but it hasn't gone over to the dark side. Right? It hasn't entered the realm of HDR craziness. Instead, it's just a nice, clean little picture that we like. Now, from here, again, probably the only thing I might do is I might come in here to the tone curve, and I can kind of adjust that a little bit if I like. I can do it on color channels, and again, I might come into the vignette. Right now, it's right in the center, so I'll just go ahead and finish that off. You can see as I crank this down. Okay, here's a great point. So right now, I'm working on the foreground details. I need to, if I want the vignette to go around the entire image, I need to come back here to the background. Now you can see it kind of coming in throughout the entire image. So there you go. Now we've kind of built up our whole image, and we're ready to export. So let's talk about exporting just a second. You can obviously share it in a variety of different ways. You've got Twitter, Facebook, Flickr. You can open in some of the MacPhun apps, obviously Photos, Photoshop, etc. You can also export. And so the export, right now, it's showing a TIFF, but I can also export in JPEG, Photoshop, etc. So, it's a really fun tool from that perspective, meaning that you can share it anywhere, you can save it for use in other products, upload it to your favorite printing site, etc., etc. So how's that looking so far?
That's looking great. A couple things.
Sure.
First of all, I want to say to the viewers that, folks, we're recording this with a Skype video share, and of course, then it's being compressed out before it gets to you. So what I'm seeing on my screen is looking really good. I imagine it looks even better on Kevin's, and so it's going to look even better on yours. But Kevin, the effects that you're showing are definitely coming through. One other thing on exporting, I did want to ask: when you export, say, to Photoshop, are you just exporting the image, or are you exporting the layers as well so they can be then manipulated in Photoshop if one wants to?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked that. Currently, we're exporting a flattened image. So if you want to save your image with all its layers and controls in the state that you left it, you need to basically save in the proprietary file format. We've had that comment many times. Hey, why don't you save your layers out to and map them into the Photoshop layers? And it's something that I know the engineers are looking at.
Yeah,
great suggestion.
Well, not even a suggestion. Just want to make clear what people are getting when they do the export, if they go that direction.
Yeah, sure enough. Thank you. Well, let me go ahead and pop into one more. Let me just take a look at this. One more sample, and I think we're going to go. This is one of my favorites. This is actually a Joshua tree. For any of you watching from Southern California, this might be familiar to you. So looks like it's a little bit of a sunrise. I'm just going to go ahead and create the HDR, and we'll see how this works.
Yeah, some of those raw photos look like photos I would take, that where one part is either grossly underexposed or grossly overexposed. So yeah, I'm excited about this.
Me too. So I love this shot. It's got a cool little lens flare coming in here. You know, I'm a desert rat, having grown up in Arizona myself. So I really like this shot. I'm going to pop into the presets, and I'm going to go straight to the landscape side of things. And again, I'm just going to select the first one here, and I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard to walk through each one of the presets. And it'll take a second. Wow, look at that! It's very fantasy-like. I would guess if I scroll down here, yeah, it's got a whole lot of image radiance on it. Is what I'm thinking. Yeah, so you got a lot of. Now, all this stuff is seasoned to taste. So if I don't like that much image radiance, I can certainly bring it down and manipulate it a little bit. So here's one that's very detailed. So you'll see that we really got a lot of detail on these rocks, and that's coming from our structure slider predominantly. And it's a great way to kind of bring up the crunchiness of the image itself. So we'll start with we'll go ahead and start with one of these presets. I'm going to dial it back and actually do something start with something a little bit more realistic, and then go ahead and close the presets. Okay, and then we'll take a look at what it took to make that realistic shot. So again, all the items in the sidebar, as we call it, the tools sidebar, have been used. See what the top and bottom lighting is. I'm going to drop that down just a little bit. You can see that top bar. I just deepen the sky a little bit, and so that's a great way to just kind of manipulate it. This has got a ridiculous highlight here that even the HDR shot didn't compensate for, but you are, after all, looking straight into the eye of the sun there. I might want a little bit more detail here, so I'll just go to HDR detail, and you know, to my eyes, Chuck, you know, I think this does borderline a little bit on the fantasy side, but it's a cool look, and I think this would look dynamite on a metal print, in fact, if you ask my opinion. But what we've done here is, just to recap, is we looked at a variety of different images in Aurora. We've used our fantastic one-click presets. We've walked through a pretty comprehensive tool palette here. There's a bunch of different tools at everybody's disposal. You've got a variety of ways to share, variety of ways to export, and we think it's going to be a great tool for people who are experienced with HDR, but also people who want to learn HDR. I think it's easy enough and approachable enough and fun enough that folks are going to enjoy putting their own images through it. Now, you mentioned a couple minutes ago, Chuck, a single image HDR, and it's absolutely possible to take any single image that we've got here and turn it into a. In fact, let me just go ahead and do that. Take any single image and work on it. Let me just I'll take this shot right here. It's going to ask me if I want to save the changes to Joshua Tree. And notice there's only one exposure that it's working on here. There's no alignment or ghost reduction. So we're going to go ahead and create that HDR. It'll load it up pretty fast. Again, single image work here. And from here, we've got a little bit of work to do. There wasn't a overexposed image to pop in there. So I might need to increase the shadows. Might need to tone it, increase the highlights just a skosh. Okay, this might be a little much. Maybe I'll come in here on the color side and increase the vibrance and the color contrast to get a little bit more out of here. But let's go ahead and look at the before and after. So there's the before and there's the after. And it happened super quick. It would have happened much quicker had I just hit a preset. But you can see that the idea of the program is fast and fun and approachable. And we even got some great glowing around these lights here. Let's go ahead and try image radiance, which is kind of cool in this instance. And maybe we'll do a little bit of glow around there as well. Okay, so get a little bit more fantasy-like. And again, here's the side by side. Don't have to overcook it here, right? It's a nice little tourist photo, and we've just taken the single image and improved it a little bit.
That's probably a great point. It's so easy to go overboard with this because you get these amazing effects and you want to see them. And I love the side by side because it sort of brings you back to reality. It's like, okay, I probably went just a little too far with that. Let's pull it back.
Yeah. Now we started out without a preset here, so let me just say that let's say I want to do some top and bottom lighting. Maybe I want to increase the bottom just a skosh there. If I want to create my own custom presets, I just pop in here and I can name that. I think this was called Kyoto. Just go Kyoto, right? Create new preset. Let me show you where that goes. When I go back to the presets, I go to the preset categories. Preset categories. I go to my user section, and there's my Kyoto right there. I've got one called Bubba too. So again, if I bring up additional images, I can just simply apply the Kyoto preset, or I can apply one of the favorites that we looked. If we wanted the black truffle salt all over again, we can pop that in there, and it changes the entire look of the image super quickly. So again, there's the before and there's the after.
Wow.
What do you think?
Wow. I think I got to quit having you on the show because you keep sucking up time. Because I'm already thinking of a good 10 or 20 photos, favorites of mine that I want to take and play with to see what kind of results I can get out of them, even though they're not bracketed. And now I got to go back and relook at bracketing things. Well,
I hope you send a couple to me because I'd love to see your personal work.
No, you wouldn't. No. We keep those hidden.
Oh, you do.
Yeah. That's just exciting. I mean, it's exciting because it puts the power of this kind of thing in my hands easily. I love the MacVoices interface. The interface remains consistent. It's as I can approach it at a high level, or I can dig down deep if I want, and I'm not intimidated either direction.
Right, exactly right. I mean, we hear from a lot of pros who really want to get in and get their fingers under the hood, but for so many people, they've got the demands of family or other things going on, and it's just pushing a button and sharing it out to Facebook, is a fantastic result.
So what kind of pricing are we talking about for which versions of this?
Got it. So the Mac App Store version will clock in at $49.99, and the Pro version will be $99.99. There will be Trey's created an hour-long, HDR tour de force. I mean, he's talking about Aurora again, bringing in his years of experience shooting. So the shooting tips, as well as a real thorough walkthrough of the software, and that's available as a bonus item, as an additional purchase if you like. If you're a pro and you want to dive in first, that's fine too. But we're pretty excited about this. We've showed it off to a few people, obviously, pre-release, and I would say the reaction's been exceeded my expectations, frankly.
Well, judging by just what you showed us with some simple photos, I think that it's phenomenal. And of course, the better the camera, the more exposures, the more varied your options.
Right.
But I'm afraid I could easily see spending an evening just working on one or two photos with all the options. That probably I'll export a dozen and then try to figure out which one I like best.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good point. Exploration is so easy that you're not limited. You just explore, export, that kind of stuff. I will say that if your viewers are going to go out and start taking bracketed exposures, really the number one accessory you can have is a tripod. It'll make your life so much easier. Just a quick tip there.
Yeah, no, I honestly, Kevin, I think that's a tip for anybody, no matter whether you're going to play with this or not. If you want that tack sharp image, you're not going to get it with a handheld. You're just not. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time, and especially for giving us time so quickly after the last visit. That was fantastic.
Sure.
This is equally fantastic, and
I'm
of
glad
course.
You liked it.
We'll make sure we point people to macphun.com, and that's MacPhun.com,
right,
to get this. And by the time that you see
Aurora HDR.com as well.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Aurora HDR.com. Folks, go check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed, no matter which version you get, the Pro or the non-Pro. But have some fun with it, Kevin. When will we see you next? Let's see.
What else do we have up?
This time next week, maybe.
I'll come on as often as you like, Chuck. I really enjoy spending time with you, and your questions, I think, are spot on. They're what people want to know.
Good. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for the time. We'll see you again pretty soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Kevin just sucked up a couple more weeks of my life with another piece of software. Maybe he's done it for you too, but I'm looking forward to it. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the MacVoices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free MacVoices magazine on Flipboard by visiting MacVoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at CashFly.com.